In the photograph, you see the German scientist Markus Aber, who was forcibly deported from Germany to the Soviet Union in 1961 after World War II. Markus was an aviation engineer and physicist specializing in aerodynamics and electromagnetic fields. My subscribers already know that my grandfather possessed many secret documents which I discovered in 2004. I have a video on this topic and new viewers can watch it for more details. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, thousands of documents about unidentified objects were sold to Americans and British, official documents, UFO debris, and much more. Now, back to the topic. The Soviet Union chose Aber for deportation for a reason. Aber had worked in Germany on extraterrestrial objects, conducting research and experiments, and knew a great deal about the subject. Aber was fluent in Russian. Soviet authorities also gathered and took everything they could find in Germany: extraterrestrial objects, secret documents, and so on. The research was conducted from 1967 to 1973. The documents describe in detail how the studies and experiments on UFOs were carried out. For Markus, it was like a prison. He spent 7 years in the hangars and laboratories without leaving the Severomorsk 3 airbase in Murmansk. 7 extraterrestrial flying objects were located at this base. Experiments on the first object began in March 1967. This object had been found in Uzbekistan in 1955. In his personal notes, Markus describes incredible things. He writes that he and his team managed to open this UFO and enter it. According to Markus, there was absolutely nothing inside except for a large panel with an unfamiliar energy source in the center, emitting a faint hum and resembling a battery. They didn't know what it was or how it worked. In his notes, he writes that this component drew energy from both the Earth and space. He never figured out how this flying object operated. There were only guesses and nothing more. One of the theories suggested that this craft was controlled by some form of intelligence, clearly of non-terrestrial origin. Aber noted that whoever possessed such technologies was thousands of years or more ahead of ours. In 1971, another UFO was brought to the aviation hangar, which had been discovered in Antarctica in 1938. The object was disc-shaped, very large, and without visible damage. However, it levitated on its own. Markus notes in his writings that when this object arrived, it had already been opened and research had also been conducted on it. Markus and his team entered it and were amazed. Inside, they found a panel with a series of symbols unlike any known language. The panel felt cold and perfectly smooth to the touch, and each time someone touched it, the air around seemed to thicken. At the center of the panel was a complex mechanism with minute gears, plates, and tubes that moved in a specific rhythm which no one could comprehend. It seemed as though the mechanism had a life of its own. It moved and changed shape without a visible power source. Aber and his team couldn't explain the nature of this mechanism. Its movement was precise, as though someone or something was controlling it externally. The mechanism occasionally emitted a faint vibrating hum, and when they approached, this sound grew louder. Aber's reports indicate that the mechanism reacted to their presence and even appeared to move faster or slower, depending on their proximity. Aber's team conducted numerous experiments trying to understand how this mechanism functioned and where it drew its power from. They brought various metals close to it, tested it for electromagnetic radiation, and attempted to affect it with ultrasonic waves, but none of this yielded results. In the hangar, there was also a small metal cylinder with engraved symbols found in Antarctica near the main object. The cylinder bore symbols similar to those visible on the panel inside the UFO. Aber speculated that the cylinder might contain information or data intended to interact with the mechanism, but they were unable to read it, and Markus doubted it would ever be deciphered. Aber wrote convincingly that Antarctica was a place frequented by extraterrestrial flying objects. This is confirmed by the photographs you are looking at now. These photos were taken during Soviet expeditions to Antarctica, and believe me, Antarctica is not quite what we know from the map. It is much larger than we can imagine. Soviet scientists found many unusual things there. In addition, many objects were discovered in the Ural, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Georgia, and other former Soviet republics. In his notes, Aber mentions a small cube in the lab, supposedly metallic, but not quite, as this element does not exist anywhere on Earth. He wrote confidently that revealing all these secrets would be extremely difficult and could take thousands of years if it happens at all. In my next video, I'll share an even more amazing story and show official documents and photos. See you soon, my dear viewers.